What's going on, everyone? Today, 74% of the S&P 500 closed down in the red, and we hope you guys had a great trading day with all this momentum-driven price action, but even if you didn't, that's okay. We have one more trading day left of the week, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Gold prices hit record highs today at $2,985 per ounce, where smart money is rushing into this quicker than we've seen even since the COVID pandemic. So we definitely have a lot to talk about on that front because physical gold buying is truly going nuts. At the same time, we have the tariff disaster just getting even worse, where Trump made some pretty bold statements today, among many other things, saying that he's not going to bend at all with the tariffs, and he even threatened 200% tariffs on European wines and just alcohol in general. He also mentioned that he's considering waiving taxes for people who make under $150,000 a year. On top of that, we have more updates on the Russia-Ukraine front, and as always, over the past few weeks, there has been a lot of crazy, strong movement in general, so we do have some pretty awesome setups to end the week as well. In today's video, we're going to talk about what's moving the markets now, what you need to know, and where the action's at. So let's get right to it, Tom.
Yeah, the market's been pretty choppy this week, and we've talked about that low on the week at 552 on the SPY, and it ended up breaking it down today as a lot of new news ended up hitting, and I will say it's not the best news overall. Trump came out with a lot of crazy statements today, which was obviously driving the market lower, and Mike, we've been seeing a lot of crazy statements in the short term, whether it's from Trump or even other people out there in the political world or even in the stock market or just in general, like world leaders. But at the end of the day, we're seeing a lot of fear starting to creep into the market. The SPY breaking that low of the week and getting to that key 550 support was a pretty crazy thing to see in the short term, and we're seeing gold prices explode. I know that we've talked about GLD a lot. It just blasted through resistance, made a new all-time high, and gold itself is almost a $3,000 an ounce. Like you said, that is a pretty crazy thing to say, considering like just at like the low point of last year, we were sitting around like 2,500 or even more at like the beginning of the year, around $2,000 an ounce. This has been outperforming the SPY.
Oh, more than outperforming. So over the past 12 months, the S&P 500 rose by 7%, and over that same time period, gold prices have increased by 37%. So that's an over 5x difference. 37% compared to 7% is night and day, and this is just a byproduct of just fear and uncertainty and just panic spreading across general markets. As we can see just by looking at the S&P 500, we are seeing a lot of selling right now. The trade war only adds to that. And at the same time, people aren't too happy to just like rush into bonds right now because realistically, the yields aren't that great. The 10-year is currently at like 4.2%, and people, you know, that's not anything crazy. But when you have gold prices soaring like they are, that is just where a lot of the money is flowing right now. And one piece of data that I thought was very interesting is, as we can see on this chart here, we actually have COMEX gold stocks just exploding. Essentially what you can see and what this represents is the physical gold inventory held at COMEX approved warehouses. So basically when you trade like, let's say, gold futures or things like that, those are backed by physical gold. And we can see right here that the rate of increase that we are seeing with physical gold stocks is stronger right now, even when we saw during like the hardest time during the 2020 pandemic.
Yeah, and the pandemic did extend out a little bit longer, and we might see this extend out a little bit longer as well. I know this was a pretty big jump on this chart in the short term, and to see this happen is pretty crazy. I can't believe that there's been that much fear that we've been seeing it creep up higher than during that time. I wish that this chart went back further, of course, so we could see like maybe like what '08 and like the dot-com bubble looked like with it, but at the end of the day, this is definitely a crazy time. We're seeing a lot of pressure going into gold. I got to give you credit, Mike. You've been looking at silver a lot in the short term off of this recent dip, and we've been seeing some fantastic breakouts up above that $30 resistance. I know you've been mentioning this one a ton, and it's starting to get up in the middle of this range, kind of extending back up towards that $32 to $31.80 target that you've been mentioning.
Tom, just wait until today's big money play. We have a 9-to-1 reward risk trade, so that'll be super exciting to talk about. But whether you're looking at gold or silver or just precious metals in general, there are a lot of ways to trade and capitalize off of this. GLD is definitely one of the most liquid gold ETFs. You also have GOLD, which is like a gold mining company. You have GDX, which is like a gold mining company ETF. You have SLV, which follows silver prices. You, of course, have physical gold and silver, among many, many other ways like gold and silver futures. But either way, I would say GLD and SLV are like the main go-tos, and the movement has been beautiful.
It really has, and in the short term, I know that there's been a lot of fear, and I don't mean to kind of push the fear here, because that's definitely not what I want to do. I will say I've been very happy to see the market pulling back, Mike. I know that a lot of people have been pretty upset with this in the short term, but there's been a lot of great intraday breakdown opportunities like today. The SPY, as it started to break a lot of these pre-market lows, there were some great breakdown opportunities. Then, of course, that 550 support bounce even ended up being a good opportunity back to the upside for a lot of the bulls at the end of the day. So just continuing to adapt to the flows on these intraday moves are definitely the way to go, especially as a scalper. You have to do that. And the news is just not slowing down, Mike. I know that we've been talking about Trump a lot in the short term, and once again, he's fueling the headlines today. Said he's not going to bend at all about the tariffs, and more specifically, these are the tariffs set to go into place on April 2nd, which are the reciprocal tariffs, which are going to be pretty big, where pretty much anybody that tariffs us is going to get a tariff right back. So that's a pretty big deal. And then he even mentioned Canada about being the 51st state again.
He keeps pitching that, and I feel like it's only making Canada not want to do that even more, honestly. But yeah, very, very interesting. And with all of this tariff news, again, it just continues to feed into the broader fear we were seeing with SPY and, partially these gold bullish flows as well. So very interesting there. And one key risk I do see with this is that, if, we don't see a resolution come into play, especially with the European Union, with these reciprocal tariffs, if Trump actually ends up going through with 200% tariffs on European alcohol, I feel like that could be a pretty big intensification.
Yeah, definitely. And then, where's it going to go from there? We're talking about alcohol, and he's already done a lot of, tariffs on automobiles. And I saw people like BMW were obviously, in trouble with that. So there's a lot of different tariffs out there, of course, that are going to end up affecting the EU. And this was just another one that he ended up threatening today. So hopefully everything gets resolved. And I guess if the EU takes their tariffs away, then Trump will not do this. But at the end of the day, it looks like he's definitely threatening it right now. And I know that we've been talking a lot in the short term about threats, and there's obviously this huge threat right now of the government shutdown. Kalshi has it at around a 50% chance right now, but looking at it in the short term, the Democrats really want to get a 30-day bill passed so that they don't have to obviously deal with the GOP bill. But I don't know, Mike. This is a pretty crazy situation. I think the government has a pretty good chance to end up shutting down, considering how much craziness that we've been seeing. But of course, I don't think either side necessarily wants a shutdown. They kind of want one of the sides to give.
That's the thing. So to simplify everything nice and easily, basically tomorrow at midnight is the deadline. Republicans want to pass a bill to keep the government funded through September 30th of 2025. Democrats aren't that happy about that, and they don't want that to go through. Instead, they proposed a shorter term 30-day version of that bill so then they could, open up some room for some further negotiation. Republicans want that longer term deal done now, and we're about to see what happens tomorrow. If there's no resolution at all, the government will be shut down by our next video.
Yeah, and that'll be a pretty crazy thing to say. That'll be a crazy headline. So definitely have your eyes on this tomorrow. And one thing, of course, the market shuts down over the weekend. Watch Bitcoin. I'm sure that we'll see a lot of action with Bitcoin over the weekend if we do see the government shut down. And those headlines will be pretty bloody. And of course, Sunday night, have your eyes on ES or the S&P 500 futures. We'll probably be seeing a lot of crazy action Sunday night as well.
There we go. But Tom, we also had some more news out of and targeted at Russia today. So what's going on this front?
Yeah, I guess first things first, I'll go in chronological order here. And starting off in the middle of the day, we actually saw Russia come out with some news that they supported the ceasefire with Ukraine, but it's not 100% yet. They need to call Trump first and obviously work things out. At first, there were some headlines out there that kind of made it seem like that they agreed to this ceasefire. But of course, they said that they would support it. But there's issues that still need to be discussed. So that was kind of the first big thing with Russia today. And then as the market closed, there was actually more headlines that ended up hitting where the Trump administration is toughening sanctions on Russian oil, gas, and banking sectors. I thought that this was pretty crazy because they're trying to get this Russia ceasefire deal down, obviously with the Russia-Ukraine situation, and of course, now they're sanctioning Russia. I don't know. That doesn't seem like the friendliest thing here to get a deal done.
Yeah, so we shall see. But either way, this should be pretty interesting, especially with like the energy side of things in the market. Crude oil definitely has been falling over the past few weeks and months. So depending on how this situation ends up escalating, it can make for some pretty big movement. Of course, you have like energy stocks like ExxonMobil, OXY, CVX, and a bunch of other ones. So if we do see a meaningful move here, we will definitely cover that action pretty in depth. But either way, keep an eye on these developments. But Tom, looking closer at SPY for tomorrow, it's been a bloodbath lately. So what are the key levels and what are you seeing in terms of charting?
Yeah, there's a lot of intraday support and resistance from the past few days because SPY has been so choppy, and we were really watching that 552 support all week long. We ended up breaking below it today and testing 550. I had 550 as the next major support, and then I have 548 just under there. So kudos to everybody that played that 550 support bounce today. That ended up being pretty awesome in the middle of the day. But I definitely do like that 548 support underneath as well. I will be watching that, and then I even like 545 if we do end up dipping down. Those are some good targets on the SPY. Overall, there's some great resistance around 554, 556, and especially 560 as we start to look at the SPY overhead. But that was a pretty brutal breakdown today, and I wonder if SPY is going to end the week on a red note tomorrow.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will end up having to play with like how well SPY holds these lower support levels, especially right around 550. If it just gives out like it has been over the past few weeks, then, it's just going to bring in even more fear, even more stop losses getting triggered, even more short selling, even more margin calls, and it's just going to continue to feed that self-reinforcing bearish feedback loop. At the same time, maybe if the market holds these lower supports, maybe we have some decent news tomorrow, the exact opposite thing can occur. And as we all know, and as we have seen many times throughout history, when you are in periods of increasing volatility like we are in now, we of course see bigger moves to the downside, but you also see the biggest, strongest, best moves to the upside as well. Because once the market starts to move up, you have a bunch of people that want to buy the dip, you have a bunch of shorts that cover, and you just have a lot of bullishness that happens at once, especially if there's news that drives it. So as always, let's stay adaptable, let's protect our risk, and let's follow the money. So I definitely look forward to the market tomorrow. But Tom, looking at the schedule tomorrow for economic events and earnings, what do we have?
Yeah, tomorrow we do have Michigan consumer sentiment preliminary data at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 30 minutes after the market opens. We have seen this move the market a lot in the past, and I don't know, Mike, considering how the market's been moving, I'm not expecting the sentiment to be too good, and neither are the analysts, as they're expecting it to drop a little bit from that previous reading. And then we do have some earnings tomorrow morning as well, but I'll be honest, the earnings calendar is pretty much done for the week.
All right, well, let's get right to it then. So, looking at some setups and predictions, a stock that is close on watch is NEM, and it is to the upside. This is a precious metals mining company, and it crushed it today, which was awesome to see. Basically, this stock has been uptrending for the past few months, and it certainly has a lot of work to do to get close to like any meaningful recent highs. But I love the momentum we are seeing it with precious metals in general right now. When you have gold prices surging past record highs and you have scary tariff news and a lot of fear in general, it helps this industry quite a bit. NEM is definitely on my bullish radar. I would love to see a break above that like $46.25 area.
Yeah, that's a pretty big resistance overhead. If we do see that break, I will definitely be watching it to the upside as well with all the metals action. With my first play, I'm looking at Nvidia to the upside. I'm really watching 118. There was a good double top today right around 117.70, and I really do like 118 on the Bookmap. We can see that there's a little bit of sellers stacked up there with 44,000 shares, and which isn't really too much. So if we do break above 118, I'll be looking for a push up to around 120 as the first target. There is a lot of sellers stacked up there. I gotta shout out Bookmap for the X-ray vision here, and especially intraday today on the SPY, there was a great bounce around that 550 support that we've been mentioning. If we go to SPY on the Bookmap, it was like X-ray vision today, Mike. There was actually a huge buy wall at that 550 mark. You can see it on the bottom of your screen right here where all of those buyers were lined up, and it ended up being the perfect low of the day. So shout out to Bookmap. There were a ton of traders in the Discord who identified this and ended up playing the bounce, partly because of the Bookmap information.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that's awesome there, and I will keep a close eye, especially on Nvidia for tomorrow. But another stock that is close on watch is Intel, and it is to the upside. Like we talked about in yesterday's video, they got a new CEO, and investors are loving it. While Intel didn't have like the craziest price action from open today, it did amazing on like a day-over-day basis as it popped up by nearly 15%. Intel is one of those stocks where when it has good momentum, it does certainly have the ability to continue for multiple days and weeks at a time, as we saw with the most recent increase in the middle of February when the stock basically went from like $19 a share all the way up to like $27.50 per share. Intel's definitely on my bullish radar. The more consistent pressure it puts on its intraday highs, the better the setup will become.
Yeah, this is a pretty crazy comeback starting to happen on Intel, and I love that move today. Even though it didn't seem like too crazy from open, it was still 4%, and I would think over the next couple weeks we could definitely see some crazier ones start to come in. And I know we've been looking at a lot of metal stocks in the short term, Mike, but I had to go with GOLD today. I love the setup on Barrick Gold, especially on the daily chart. There's a pretty clear double top in the short term, and if we end up breaking above this resistance right around $19.15, then I'm going to really keep watching GOLD to the upside. It's just above the high of day from today, and with gold breaking out and just being at elevated levels, I could see Barrick Gold and just a lot of miners continuing up. So I'll definitely be watching for the breakout here on these metal stocks. I know you mentioned NEM as well.
All right, sounds good there. And besides that, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Coinbase to the downside.
Yeah, Coinbase with the massive sell-off again today, down 7%. If they pull back under 177, keep watching them back down.
All right, with the next one, we have Pinterest also to the downside.
Poor pins, they're around $31 support. If they break under that double bottom and low from the week, then keep watching them down as well.
All right, and then with the last one, we have QBTS to the upside.
Yeah, QBTS has had some crazy price action in the short term. Yesterday, they actually halted as they had a quantum breakthrough. Now they ran up 18% today. If they can break out above $7.10, keep watching them up.
All right, so we have QBTS, PINS, and COIN all on watch for potential continuations tomorrow if and only if they break through the levels listed. These stocks are crazy and they are volatile and they move a lot. have stop losses to protect yourself. Basically, with setups like these ones, the more consistent and the stronger they move, so the more percentage they move and the smoother the price action is, the better the setups become. They are momentum-driven intraday setups, so definitely keep them on the radar. And again, definitely have stop losses. But besides that, Tom, we are all clear for today's pretty crazy big money trade. We are looking at a $312,000 trade with ticker symbol SLV, where they are risking $312,000 to potentially make $2.88 million. So this is pretty exciting, not only in terms of that reward risk, but also SLV is a ticker symbol that we've been talking about in a bullish way for weeks to months at a time on this channel. So I know some traders are doing very well off of this. Silver prices have been rising alongside gold prices in the short term, and it has definitely been in a pretty bullish way. For my advanced traders out there, this is technically a call debit spread where they are buying the $33.50 strike calls for May 16th of 2025, and at the same time they are shorting the $37.50 strike calls. This is a bullish trade where they want the ETF in this case to go up, and I'm pretty excited to see how it does.
Yeah, this is awesome. We're seeing that $30 breakout start to come into play. I know that you've been mentioning that $31.80 to $32 resistance overhead, maybe even $31.50 if you want to get really technical on that second test up there at the top. But man, SLV is on quite the run here as these metals are moving. Of course, there's a lot of fear hitting the market. I can't wait to see how that consumer sentiment data comes out tomorrow, 30 minutes after the open. That is going to be a pretty crazy reading if that ends up coming in with a lot of negative sentiment. I could see silver and gold potentially running up if that shows that the sentiment is a little bit rougher. But either way, fantastic action, and kudos to you, Mike. You've been calling out silver here over the past few weeks on this dip, and we even had a recent big money play that was called out on March 6th with this one. There was an $840,000 play, and I know a lot of people were a little bit skeptical of it at first as silver started dipping, but man, the past few days have definitely came back well.
Love to see it. And if you guys are into short-term trading, you already know, definitely check out the StockedUp trading floor. Our search bot did very well today, where we had some 288% gains with Adobe put options, 226% gains with TTD put options, 170% gains with Meta put options, and the list goes on and on. Not only do you get full access to our search bot, but our army of other trading bots. You can join our weekly live events, chat with Tom and myself all day long, and access basically everything you could possibly need for short-term trading. Definitely check it out with the first link in the description and the comments down below. But we also might as well give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, D Coop, who had some nice $7,000 gains today with some QQQ put options. So you've been in the community for over a year now. Keep up the great work, D Coop, and keep on rolling. We have one more day left to the trading week. It's certainly going to be a crazy day with all of this tariff news and the already existing volatility and serious movement. So as always, let's prioritize smart, long-term, sustainable trading habits above all else. Have stop losses to protect yourself. Follow the money. Have a thesis for every trade that you take. And let's end the week on a great note. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.